Okay, so let's say you're dreaming of Italy. Maybe you're picturing yourself on a train,
Yeah.
winding through those beautiful landscapes.
Yeah.
But then you think, wait a minute, is it actually safe?
Yeah. That's smart to think about.
So to help us deep dive into this, we've got some great insights from the Love to Visit Italy newsletter.
Hmm.
And, Europe overall, it has a pretty good reputation for safety.
It does,
Yeah.
but tourists can definitely be easy targets,
Oh, yeah,
especially when we're distracted, by all the new sights and sounds.
absolutely. This newsletter makes a good point. European train travel, it is generally considered safe, but they do say that pickpocketing is a concern,
Mm-hmm.
especially for tourists. So it's
Yeah.
about being aware, not being afraid, right?
Right.
So I'm curious about this. There are all those different kinds of train travel experiences you can have in Italy. Like I'm picturing like those charming little local trains
Yeah.
that kind of meander through the countryside. But then there are those super fast high-speed trains
Right.
zipping between all the big cities. So what's the safety lowdown on those?
Okay, so you've hit on a really key point here. Those slower regional trains, the ones that really let you soak up the scenery. Yeah, they might feel more laid back, but they often make a lot of stops. They have more open compartments, and they can get super crowded, especially when it's tourist season.
Oh, so maybe more chances for someone to like slip by unnoticed?
Yeah, potentially. Now with those high-speed trains, you're talking assigned seating,
Hmm.
often in enclosed compartments,
Yeah.
and way fewer stops. It's a more controlled environment,
Right.
which usually means a lower risk of petty theft.
So if you're someone who's like a little worried about pickpocketing,
Yeah.
maybe going for the high-speed option.
Yeah.
For those longer trips, that might give you a little more peace of mind.
Exactly. It's about matching your travel style and your comfort level to the type of train journey you want.
Yeah.
Like if you want efficiency and you're thinking about minimizing risks, high speed might be the way to go.
Hmm.
But if what you really want is that immersive scenic experience, those regional trains offer a different kind of charm. And just being aware of those potential security differences, that's what lets you prepare accordingly.
Okay, so this is going beyond like just your typical generic safety tips.
Yeah.
It's about understanding like the personality of each type of train and how that fits into your overall travel strategy.
Exactly. It's like choosing a travel buddy. They each bring something different to the table.
So for our listeners out there who are ready to experience all that Italy has to offer, knowing there are these two distinct train personalities, what's the next piece of the puzzle?
Okay, well, let's think about where these trains can actually take you. You mentioned the Italian Riviera. Like, imagine being on a regional train, hugging the coastline, passing those colorful villages perched on the cliffs. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Cinque Terre, it's a string of 5 villages, all linked by this charming train route.
Cinque Terre? Okay. Yeah, that's definitely calling my name. But wouldn't those trains be packed with tourists?
Yeah, you're right. Cinque Terre is so popular. Those trains can get really crowded, especially during peak season. And remember what we were talking about earlier about being aware.
Uh-huh.
Crowds can be like prime spots for petty theft.
Ah, so even though it's a regional line, just the sheer number of people might make it a little riskier.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how, even on a generally safe form of transportation like trains, specific routes and situations can change your risk level. It's not about avoiding these iconic places, but it's about going in with your eyes open
Yeah.
and taking smart precautions.
Okay, so I'm picturing myself on that Cinque Terre train, camera in hand, jaw on the floor from the beauty, but also keep a close eye on my belongings.
Yeah.
Got it. So we've got high speed for efficiency, regional for the scenic route, and then these popular routes that require some extra vigilance. What else should our listener be thinking about?
Well, don't forget, even within those categories, there's a whole spectrum.
Yeah, right.
Some high-speed routes might be less crowded than others, and some regional trains might go through less touristy areas. That's the beauty of train travel in Italy. There's an option for everyone.
So it's not just about the type of train, but also the specific route, and maybe even the time of year.
Absolutely. And that's where a little research can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like reading travel blogs, checking train schedules, even looking at photos from different times of year. That can give you a sense of what to expect.
Oh, I love that. Using visual research to figure out the crowd levels.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does all of this mean for our listener who's ready to start their Italian train adventure?
It means planning your trip is more than just picking spots on a map. It's about understanding the details of each kind of train, thinking about the possible risks and rewards, and ultimately choosing an adventure that matches your travel style and comfort level.
And it means that even though we didn't get into specific safety tips from the Love to Visit Italy newsletter, We've uncovered a deeper level of preparedness. We've gone beyond the tactical and into the realm of strategic travel thinking.
Exactly, and sometimes the smartest move is to pick a destination that might be a bit less crowded, a little more off the beaten path.
Ah, the allure of the road less traveled.
Yeah.
I bet those places have a magic that those crowded tourist spots just don't. Speaking of hidden gems, any recommendations come to mind?
Have you ever heard of Portofino?
Portofino.
It's on the Italian Riviera, but it's a little more under the radar than Cinque Terre.
Okay, Portofino, tell me more. What makes it so special?
Okay, picture this. A tiny, picturesque harbor town. Pastel-colored houses cascading down to the water, luxury yachts bobbing gently in the harbor, and seafood restaurants serving up the freshest catches of the day.
Okay, that sounds incredible. And
Yeah.
probably a lot less chaotic than those packed trains to Cinque Terre.
Exactly. Portofino might be a bit more exclusive, a bit more under the radar, but it offers that same stunning coastal scenery as Cinque Terre, just maybe with a touch more glamour.
So if you want that Italian Riviera experience,
Mm-hmm.
but you prefer a quieter, more sophisticated vibe, Portofino might be your secret weapon.
Yeah, and who knows, you might even spot a celebrity or two sipping espresso at a harborside cafe.
Okay, you've officially added Portofino to my must-see list.
Yeah.
So we've gone from talking about Italian train travel safety in general to this fascinating comparison of different travel styles. And we even uncovered a hidden gem along the way.
And it all comes back to that first point. Awareness is key. Knowing your options, understanding the possible risks and rewards, and choosing a journey that fits your personality. That's what empowers you to travel safely and confidently.
I love that. So for our listeners who are now daydreaming about their own Italian train adventures, what's the one thing you want them to take away from this deep dive?
Don't be afraid to venture beyond those well-worn paths. There's a whole world of hidden gems out there waiting to be discovered, and sometimes those less crowded, less predictable journeys can be the most rewarding, and yes, even the safest.
I love that. Embrace the unexpected, but do it smartly. And on that note, we'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question. If you could hop on an Italian train right now, which direction would you head? Towards the bustling energy of Rome, the artistic heart of Florence, or the secluded charm of Portofino? Let us know. Until next time, happy travels.
Bye! Yeah, so you're picturing those colorful villages perched on the cliffs.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about Cinque Terre,
Oh, yeah.
5 villages, all connected by this really charming train route.
Cinque Terre. Okay, yeah, that's definitely on my list.
Oh.
But wouldn't those trains be packed with tourists?
You're absolutely right. Cinque Terre is so popular, those trains can get really crowded, especially during like peak season.
Yeah.
And remember what we were saying before about being aware.
Right.
Crowds can be like the perfect spot for petty theft.
So even though it's a regional line,
Mhm.
the sheer number of people might make it a little bit riskier.
Exactly. It really shows you how, even with a pretty safe way to travel like trains, specific routes and situations can totally change the risk level.
Yeah.
It's not about avoiding those iconic places, but it's about going in with your eyes open and taking those smart precautions.
Okay, so I'm picturing myself on that Cinque Terre train, camera ready, just blown away by the scenery, but also keeping a close eye on all my stuff.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about high speed for efficiency, regional for the scenic route, and then these super popular routes that need a little extra vigilance. So what else should our listeners be thinking about?
Well, even within those categories, there's a whole spectrum.
Right.
Some high-speed routes might not be that crowded, and some regional trains might go through areas that aren't as touristy. That's the great thing about train travel in Italy. There really is something for everyone.
So it's not just about the train itself, but also the specific route and maybe even what time of year you're going.
Exactly. And that's where doing a little research really pays off.
Yeah, totally.
Like reading some travel blogs, checking out those train schedules, even looking at photos from different times of year can really help you get a feel for what to expect.
Oh, I love that. Using photos to figure out how crowded it'll be.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all this in mind, what does it mean for our listener who's ready to hop on a train and start their Italian adventure?
It means planning your trip is about more than just plotting points on a map.
Right.
It's about really understanding those different types of trains, thinking about the possible risks and rewards, and then choosing an adventure that really matches your travel style and how comfortable you are with certain things.
Yeah, and it means even though we didn't go through specific safety tips from the Love to Visit Italy newsletter, We've uncovered this whole other level of preparedness. We've gone beyond those tactical things and into the world of strategic travel thinking.
Exactly. And you know, sometimes the smartest move you can make is picking a place that might be less crowded, a little more off the beaten path.
Oh, the appeal of the road less traveled. I bet those places have a kind of magic that you just don't find at those really popular tourist spots. Speaking of hidden gems, any recommendations?
Have you ever heard of Portofino?
Portofino.
It's on the Italian Riviera, but it's not as well known as Cinque Terre.
Okay, Portofino. Tell me more. What makes it so special?
Okay, imagine a tiny, charming harbor town with pastel houses cascading down to the water, fancy yachts just bobbing gently in the harbor, and restaurants serving the freshest seafood you can imagine.
Okay, that sounds amazing. And probably a lot less chaotic than those crowded trains to Cinque Terre.
Exactly. Portofino might be a bit more exclusive, a little more under the radar, but it has the same stunning coastal scenery as Cinque Terre, just maybe with a touch more glamour.
So if you're craving that Italian Riviera experience, but you want something quieter and a little more sophisticated, Portofino might be your secret weapon.
Yeah, and who knows, you might even see a celebrity or two sipping espresso at one of those harborside cafes.
Okay, you've officially added Portofino to my travel list.
Yeah.
So we've gone from talking about Italian train travel, safety in general, to comparing all these different travel styles. And we even discovered a hidden gem along the way.
And all goes back to that main point. Awareness is key.
Right.
Knowing your options, understanding those possible risks and rewards, and choosing a journey that really fits your personality. That's what lets you travel safely and confidently.
I love that. So for our listeners who are dreaming of their Italian train adventures, what's the one thing you want them to take away from this deep dive?
Don't be afraid to go beyond those well-worn paths. There's a whole world of hidden gems out there just waiting to be found. And sometimes those less crowded, less predictable journeys can be the most rewarding. And you know what? They can even be the safest.
That's so true. Embrace the unexpected, but do it with a little bit of smarts. And with that in mind, we'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question. If you could hop on an Italian train right now, where would you go? Would you head for the energy of Rome, the art scene in Florence, or the charm of Portofino? Let us know. And until next time,
Happy travels.
I love that idea. It's not about like avoiding adventure. It's about choosing the right adventure for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, thinking back to that Love to Visit Italy newsletter, they didn't give us specific safety tips, but it did make us think about making smart decisions. And honestly, that feels way more helpful.
I agree. It's about giving yourself the knowledge you need, not just following a bunch of rules.
Right.
Because even the most detailed list of tips can't possibly cover every situation.
Exactly. And sometimes the best travel memories come from those unexpected detours or those places you never even planned on seeing.
Yeah, for sure. That feeling of discovering something new, venturing off the beaten path, that's where the real magic happens. So well said. So for our listeners, who are now probably full of ideas for their Italian train trips, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
Embrace the planning process. Don't just book a ticket and go. Really dive into those different types of trains. Research the routes. Imagine what it will be like. And choose the journey that speaks to you. Because when you travel with intention and awareness, you're not just seeing the sights, you're really experiencing the whole journey.
So beautifully put. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. As you plan your Italian adventure, remember that the journey itself can be just as amazing as the destination. Safe travel.